feet just inside shoulder width apart. And let's start standing up nice and tall and take some double shoulder rolls. So lengthening the spine down, lifting the crown of the head up. Both shoulders going all the way around, taking as big a circle with this section. Think of my little cat sleeve there. And then let's take some singles. Keeping the hips fairly still as you do this. Good, so rotating around the rib cage, noticing that we're always going backwards. We can go forwards, it's not a problem, but basically we're trying to avoid and counteract this position. I'm hugely exaggerating it, but this position in general, we want to go, that's why we're going backwards. Our goal is to open up the front of the chest. Then let's place the hands on the shoulders, and we're going to sweep the elbows forwards and pin them back. So when you sweep them forward, it's not a very big sweep, it's only your lower arm, but get those elbows together. The reason I turn sideways is to show you that I'm actively pushing my upper back in the opposite direction. And then when I open up the elbows, I'm shifting the rib cage forwards, pushing back and shifting. It's like the box of my rib cage is shifting forwards and backwards. The weight goes back onto my heels a little bit. Here is why I bend my knees and tuck the pelvis under, and then pitches forwards more onto the balls of the feet. But don't think so much about what's going on in your legs. Think about the action of the rib cage. And then let's take some great big circles around all the way. Again, thinking about elbows, drawing the biggest circle, and that rib cage shifting forwards and backwards, opening up our upper body and growing up nice and tall. Brilliant. Let's bring the feet a little bit closer together now. So nice and parallel with the insteps, more hip width apart. You're going to pitch the weight forwards and come up onto a rise, up onto the balls of your feet, and then a gentle controlled lower. Try not to rock back, whoopsie, try not to rock back onto your heels. So from the side, I'm just pitching the weight forwards, lengthening the spine, up through the crown of the head, sending the tailbone down, lowering with control. So it's a very slight pitch forwards. Good, we're going to add on to that. As you lower your heels, bend one knee. So you're sort of popping your toes, lifting the heel up. Rise up and pop the toes. Don't pop the toes, actually, that's not a very good expression. I'm going to use pop the toes in a moment. Bend your toe joint over. So these socks are slightly odd. They've got this sort of square, this line drawn around them. So across my toe joints, from my big toe joint to my little toe joint is where I'm focusing on bending. So I'm rising up, I'm going to go slightly on an angle, rising up, lowering, keeping the leg nice and straight, lowering the heel, so lowering one heel, and then letting the other heel stay lifted and pushing over in those toes. Again, a little bit tougher on the balance. Let's add on even more. So as you lower that heel, you're now going to bend the knee. So you're bending as much as you can, no change in the upper body. You're straightening that leg, rising up onto the balls of both feet. Lower the other heel, then bend the knee, then straighten the leg, then rise. Lower the heel, bend the knee. Bending as much as you can, keeping the heel down if you can. And then from the front, we're looking at perfect alignment. So hips and shoulders stay absolutely square. Perfect alignment mainly on this leg. Don't worry so much about this one. But those knees going over your toes, in line with your hip. My knee is actually going in the middle of my toes. Up to the top, lower the heel, bend the knees. If you need to, by all means, have a chair, a back of a chair, the kitchen worktop, depending on where you are, the back of the settee, a wall maybe, just nearby to give you a little bit of support. Adding on even more. So you're lowering the heel, bending the knee, and then this is where we're going to pop the toes now. So lifting that leg up, pointing the feet, so just those toes on the end. Push the ball of the foot down, in, go back back up to the top, lower the heel, bend the knee, pop the toes. So I call these slow pony trots. You might have seen them in some of my other classes. The idea is to be articulating all the way through the joints and sort of taking like a slow motion pony trot sort of walk, a very exaggerated walk, but trying to warm everything up, thinking about your balance, thinking about your alignment. It's quite hard work. Good, we're going to add on a little bit to this just to get the heart rate up a little bit and the coordination side of things. So just lower, just stand with your feet hip width apart again, and we're going to take backstroke arms. And as you do this, we are allowing the shoulder to open up, the hips to open up, and the ankles to open up. And this is really important. So as we're doing this as a standalone movement, I'm allowing all of that rotation in the lower body to go on. Then we're going to add that to our pony trots, which is going to make it significantly harder. So we're up on the balls of the feet. You're going to take opposite arm to the front knee up. As you lower into that bend of the knee, the arm is coming up, the knee is lifting. So this is now become nice and coordinated. But in order to keep your balance and the legs doing what we were doing before, the movement can only, the rotation to allow this to happen in the shoulders can only happen in the upper body. So my hips are pretty much facing forwards. Don't worry if this is your worst idea of a warm-up. It's one of those things you might not necessarily enjoy, but quite good for the brain. Just the timing of the whole thing. And it will hopefully get you nice and warm. Brilliant. Okay, relax those arms. Let's warm up the spine a little bit more. So having the feet wide this time, insteps parallel, taking a chest and a back lift. So lifting the chest, looking up. Find that nice supported position on your hands in the sumo wrestler. Fingertips are in, elbows are out. You're going to unravel your spine all the way down and then roll all the way back up. So it does what it says on the tin. It starts with a chest lift. You don't need to put your hand here. I always do that just so I'm pointing out. We're lifting the chest, arching the back. The head finishes off the movement. Then we're lifting the back to come up. But it's the shape of your spine that I want you to concentrate on. You might not be comfortable just yet, we're still warming up, to go as deeply into it as I am. You might just want to keep it a little bit smaller, that's absolutely fine. Make sure you have your hands in this position, elbows out to the side, so you're really comfortable here, and then I can allow my back to relax. I'm not having to hang on. Good, so that's a chest and back lift. Let's reverse it into a body ripple. So you take the chin onto the chest, you round. You come back into that sumo wrestler position. You lead with the head and arch the back to come up. And then chin onto the chest, round. Lead with the head to come up. Again, doesn't have to be quite as big as I'm making it. We're just mobilising the spine all the way through. And that lovely ripple effect going. Perfect. Okay, from a narrow position, we're going to bring our legs into first position, but I want you to turn out in the hip socket. So you're not just going to bring your heels together and twiddle about with your ankles and your toes. You're going to pitch the weight forward slightly onto the balls of the feet, turn the legs out in the hip socket, bring your heels together if you can, and then lower. And then lift the heels, reverse so that you come back to that parallel position. And again, lift the heels, heels together and lower, lift the heels. So a couple of times, even if you're on a yoga mat, I've got socks on, but it's still quite sticky, especially if you're bare feet. Try and stick with this. There's a bit of friction with the yoga mat. But the thing I'm trying to get you to do is turn the leg out in the hip socket. That's most importantly. Let's take one more of those. So bring the heels together if you can. You might not the architecture of your legs, shape of your legs might mean that you can't comfortably get your heels together. Absolutely no problem at all. Have a look down. Make sure your feet are turned out evenly. You haven't got one out at 90 degrees and one at 45. They're turned out evenly. Heels together, but if not heels, your calves or your lower legs. If your legs are a different shape from mine, mine's slightly bow-legged, which works well for this, but if they go the other way, maybe, slightly, you might find that you've got one knee pushing in front of the other. Try not to let that happen. Try and let them be turned out equally up here and then equally turned out at the knees. Great. And then we're going to keep the heels or the lower legs together. And you're just going to take a small little rise. Notice that my t-shirt looks like I've got a little skirt on. So sitting on the shelf of my bottom. So rising up a little bit and then lowering. So hopefully feeling that you're switching on pelvic floor and around the crease of your bottom, your gluteal fold. Working on your turnout muscles. Good, so this should feel you should feel some work going on here. Brilliant, let's keep the legs in turnout, keep that squeeze, keep that rotation, and let's reach up to the ceiling. Keep the arms quite narrow and parallel, and you haven't really got very far to go here, so I just want you to stretch that middle finger to try and touch the ceiling. Think about lifting and lengthening just above your waistband on the side of your spine. That's the bit that we're trying to reach here. And then hold both arms up, stay looking up. Shoulders are up round your ears a little bit, ribs are flaring, legs are still in that position, and then lower the eye line, lower the shoulders, lower the arms down, but keep that lovely length in the spine. And then let's bring fingertips to temples. Now we're tipping over, taking a side bend. The focus is on this top elbow. The top elbow is reaching up towards the ceiling. And in the monitor, I'm trying to almost get a straight line down this side. Got a bit of a kink there, but the kink is only because I can't go quite over that far. So think of lifting the elbow up as opposed to just crunching in on this underneath side. Lift and lengthen. And we've already lifted the rib cage off of the hips, so that should feel quite nice. Brilliant. Make sure you've done an equal amount both sides. And then let's place the hands at the back of the head, but don't interlace the fingers. Keep the fingertips nice and wide. So maybe just your middle fingers touching. Elbows are nice and wide, staying in the same position with the legs. We're going to take an upper body roll around. So you're lifting the head up and back. You're rolling around to the side, forwards, round to the other side and back. Try and get your face and your elbows and your arms to all be looking up at the ceiling when you're in that back position. And imagine you're creating a crease around here, around your floating ribs at the front, the sort of middle of your ribs at the back. Keep that chest lifted. And I said to my class this morning, and this is a new one for me, imagine your arms and your head are a satellite dish, and you can't really change the shape. So what I mean by that is you're not going to bring your elbows in, you're not going to roll your head around in the middle. It's fixed in that shape. Great. And then just place your hands across your chest, hanging onto your shoulders. Same thing, although now you're going to go much further, and this should feel slightly more relaxed. And as you go backwards, I can't see myself in the monitor, but you shouldn't be able to see my head when I'm back there. So changing direction, I'm allowing my head to be a bit freer this time, and it just feels more comfortable. Couple in each direction. Brilliant, and release. Good, that's that how upper body all rotated and warmed up really nicely. So now let's think about the legs. We're going to come back into that slight rise. So a slight rise because we're not opening the heels up all the way. We're not coming up all the way. We're trying to keep those heels together. And then we're going to bend the knees. Knees are going over the toes really evenly, and then you're straightening the legs and lowering. So this is quite hard work on the legs, but really good pelvic floor, really good for your alignment, your strength in the legs, your confidence in your legs. So rising up a little bit, bending the knees. Knees are going over the toes, straightening and lowering the heels. Let's do one more of those. Rise up, bend the knees, straighten the legs and lower. Great. Watch me for the next sequence before you start to join in. So we're going to rise up, we're going to bend the knees. This time we're going all the way down to the floor. When you get as low as comfortable as you feel, you might not be able this way, that's absolutely fine. Take your weight forwards onto your hands by taking them down to the floor. Lift your hips up a little bit, bring the heels, push the heels out so your legs are in parallel. Push your heels down, walk your hands back to your feet, make sure the head and neck is relaxed, and then we're rolling up. I'm just going to do the same thing. We'll do it with me now. We'll do 3 or 4 of these. I'm going to turn to the side just so that you can see what's going on if you're a little bit confused. So we're going from turn out into parallel. We're also going to add some hamstring stretches and some rotation in there. So rising up on the balls of the feet, bending the knees, keep the chest really upright. There's no change in that body. Relax at your knees, relax at your thighs. As soon as you need to, take the hands forwards. I'm taking my weight into my hands. Lift your hips up, not too high if you need, but if you need to, really lift them up. And then parallel the feet, so push your heels out. Walk your hands back to so the heels of my palms are just touching my toes. Nod your head, shake your head. Make sure there's no tension there whatsoever. And then let's roll up. Keeping those legs bent. Remember, when you're rolling up, you're really tucking that pelvis under, all the way up to the top. Feet should be in exactly the same position as we started. Bring those heels together, and we're going again. Rise up. Bend the knees. Knees over the toes. Keep breathing. Hands to the floor. Parallel the legs. Push the heels down. Walk the hands back. Make sure your head is relaxed. From here, straightening and bending the legs 2 or 3 times. When you're straightening, you're stretching your hamstrings, you're taking a nice breath out. When you're bending, you're releasing that stretch, and then roll up through the spine. Remember, when you roll up, just shake those hands for me, shake the arms, no touching the legs. That creates a tension in your arms that you don't need. Back into turn out. Take the rise slightly. Knees are going over your toes, all the way down into that plie. Hands are forwards, heels are out. Push the heels down, walk the hands back. Check you're not holding your head up here. Appreciate if you're looking at the screen, that might be a bit different, but let your head relax. Again, bend and straighten. Bend and straighten. Bend and straighten, and then rolling up. We're going to take one more. Just watch a moment for the finale of this one. We're going to add a rotation. So when you're here, you're going to bend one knee, straighten the other leg, bend. Hopefully you can see my hips are dropping from side to side. And then the straight leg side, which is this side, take a straight arm out and up to the ceiling and rotate. There should be a straight line through from the top hand through my shoulders to the hand at the floor. Bring that hand down, swap the legs over, straight arm reaching out, so we've got that lovely rotation, and then we're going to roll up. Here we go, last one. So you're in your first position, lifting the knees, lifting the heels slightly, knees are over the toes, relax into it. Hands to the floor, lift the hips, parallel the feet, walk the hands back. Try and sort of hang from your waist a little bit. Bend one knee, just do the legs first. Let the hips drop from side to side. Quite a strong stretch on your hamstrings again. You might not be touching the floor, that's absolutely fine. Just try and let that upper body relax. And then, keeping that one leg straight, place the other hand underneath your face, in the middle of your feet, and lift up.
If you've got the legs the wrong way round, it'll feel really awkward. So the straight leg, swap the legs over, lift that straight arm, rotate all the way round. Try not to get stuck. Breathe all the way through. This should feel quite nice. You might want to breathe out as you take the arm up. Breathe in as you return. Make sure you've done an equal amount both sides. Relax in the middle. Bend the knees and then roll up through the spine, unravelling all the way to the top. Great. Okay, give the legs a bit of a shake. So we've stretched the backs of the legs. Standing on one leg. Focus is on the hips today a little bit. If you can, stay standing on that one leg, circle your other knee and your thigh. Take the biggest circle you can. So you're going to go across your midline, lift it up as high as you can, open it out to the side, drop it down. Open it round. There's an alternative, an easier alternative, which is where you draw a teardrop shape. So you've got your toe on the floor, you still want to try and cross over as much as possible, lift up as much as possible, open out and then come back to that central point with your foot just in front of your other leg, so from the side you're there. But again, as always, use a bit of support if you need it. Good, if you're still going with that first direction, perfect, let's change direction. Same rules apply to the teardrop. Try and keep your hips and your shoulders square to your front, but it's not the end of the world. So this direction is much more clunky for me. It just in that hip joint, it's much more difficult. We just don't do this movement, do we? So we're mobilising the hips. It's also hard work on your standing leg. That should be getting nice and warm. Great, let's swap legs over. So crossing over, lifting up, taking it out to the side first of all. My standing leg is straight actually. I'm not locked out the knee, but I'm fairly secure, supported there, shoulders and hips square, apart from my little wobble there. Good, so remember the alternative is to draw the knee, a teardrop with the knee. Good, let's change direction. If you can, stay on that one leg all the way through. More tiring, you're more tired now, so on the second side, both legs are feeling it, both hips are getting really nice and warm. For me, it's not as clunky on this side, I don't know why, but I'm really concentrating on lifting my ribs up out of my hips. Whew. Getting nice and warmed up here, the front of the hips, in that groin, in your hip flexors, really important for the next thing that we're going to do. We're going to take some lunges down to the floor and we're going to end up kneeling down to the floor and coming back up. So lunges are a big, strong movement. I'm just going to turn my mat slightly on an angle. If you've got a yoga mat, use the length of your yoga mat. So I'm stepping back, a really nice wide step. I'm going to hinge at my hips. I'm trying to keep my back in its natural curves. I'm going to try and lay my chest along my thigh and touch my hands, both hands towards the top of my foot, like you're doing your laces up. And at the same time, I'm thinking about dropping that back knee down to the floor and then coming up and swapping sides. So the leg goes quite a way back, otherwise those knees are going to come too far forwards. Hinge at your hips, keep your chest up but rest over your thighs. Hand to the foot, keep your chest up so you're not here. Try and drop that back knee down a little bit and then come up. So quite a few things to think about. Take a big wide step, even if you're not doing the full bend all the way to the floor. Use the wall, use a bit of support. So you could just take a little mini bend and reach forwards. Just take the hip hinge. Reach towards your shin, reach just past your knee. It really doesn't matter. Focus on taking the legs back, focusing on keeping the knees above the ankles, this knee underneath the hip. As you start to warm up a little bit more, think about almost, touch that back knee to the floor, but don't actually put it down. So noticing this is quite hard work
on the legs, on the hips. Keep that back fairly upright. So you're doing your laces up, but you're looking, you're checking what's going on. Great. Okay, hard work on the balance, and also we've got that wonderful alignment to think about. Next movement is probably a little bit easier actually, and quite functional. You're going to step back. This time you are going to kneel all the way down. Hopefully you've warmed up nicely for that. You're going to bring your knees together. You're going to swap the legs over, so you've got the other leg in front. Pitch the weight forwards over that front leg and stand. Swap legs. Lead, one leg back, lower down, bring the knees together, pitch forwards and come up. Let's take 4 more of those. Thinking about certain things as you're doing this. So nice big stride backwards. Keep the knees above your ankles if you can. When I go down onto my knees, I tend to relax my feet, relax my toes. When I'm coming forwards, I swap the leg over. You really need to go over that front foot. Keep your chest up. Think about your alignment. Swapping legs, so going back. You could keep the toes under on the back foot all the time. You could use that back foot and those toes to help you come up. But just notice, do you really need that? Let's take 2 more at least. So there, I relax my feet. I personally don't use my toes to come up. I put all my weight through that front heel to come up. Last one, all the way back, keep the chest up, knees together, come forwards, get your chest, push the weight down through that heel, chest forwards, and then up you come. And that should be relatively easy. Fantastic. We are going to come down to the floor now. So we're going to start on all fours. So I'm going to just move monitors. Okay, great. So if you can, to get down to the floor, stepping back, kneeling, joining the knees together, and then we are on our all fours position. Great, so hands are underneath the shoulders, knees are underneath your hips. Let's just take some mobilising of the spine to start with. I'm just going to tuck this in a little bit. So I would like you to think about starting a sort of spine curl or articulating of the spine from your pelvis, finishing off with the head, and then again from the pelvis finishing off with the head. So it looks like this. So you're tucking your pelvis under, then you're lifting your lower ribs, your middle ribs, your upper ribs, and then you're allowing the head to drop to finish off the movement. So I'm pushing up into the top of my body as much as I can up towards the ceiling. Leave the head there. Release the pelvis back to neutral. Feel that lower back drop, middle ribs, upper ribs, and then the head lifts last. And again, tuck the pelvis under. Really send that tail between your legs. Lift the ribs up. Lift those upper ribs up as high as you can. Allow the head to lower, but don't let it this shouldn't be hanging off of your shoulders. You're just lengthening. So you're really trying to get as much length in the back of the neck. Still lifting up and back. And then return with the pelvis. Try and articulate through every section of the spine. Let's do the same, but start with the head. This is much harder. So the head lowers. That sparks you lifting your upper ribs up, your middle ribs, your lower back tucks under, your pelvis really tucks under. Hold it there. Watch that you haven't taken your weight back. Keep those shoulders over your hands. Now release the head first. And then those upper ribs, middle ribs, lower ribs, and then finally lower back and pelvis, release and return to a neutral position. Let the head lower, but don't let it hang, just lowering. So I feel like I'm still pushing, I'm applying pressure here, sort of forwards and upwards if you like, rather than letting it hang, so it's quite different. So let that drop down. Now lift the upper ribs up, middle ribs,
lower back, really strongly tuck that pelvis under as much as you can. Finish off with the head, upper ribs, middle ribs, lower back, finishing off in a nice neutral. Great, let's bring the feet and knees together. So this is a lovely Garuda exercise. I don't think it's really got a name, but it's very flowing, and I want you to we're going to do it 4 times. If you've never done this before, it might be a little bit awkward at first. In fact, I'll do it for you once, and then we'll do it 4 more times. So hopefully you can, when you join in the other times, you'll know what you're doing. So we're going to press the shins into the floor. You're going to tuck your pelvis under. You're going to round your back, taking the hips halfway back towards the heels, and then you come forwards. It's like you sort of come up and over, and then you tuck your elbows in to your sides and then straighten. Then, so this is the one. This is a demonstration one. I'm going to do a few more of these after this. You take your feet to one side, and so from your knees, angle to one side. You tuck under. You stretch back in the same way, and then you come up and forwards in the same way we just did, but you put all of the pressure onto that back hand on this case. So I've got this shoulder over this hand. You lift the knee, unravel your hand across your chest, lift. I'm trying to touch the ceiling, I'm pushing my hips forwards, I'm pulling that knee back, and then I'm going to reach all the way around, bring my knees together, but I'm still in this slightly twisted stretch, and I'm going to stay rounded in my back, stretching back. It's a wonderful stretch all down this side of your back, and then you come into the middle, bring your feet together, and we're ready to go again. So let's do the same thing again. I'm going to do the same side so that your first one is going to be facing the camera. So hopefully you can see what's going on. So I'm going to talk away from the camera and towards the camera. So squeezing your knees together, push your shins into the floor, tuck that pelvis under, round the back, stretch back. Try and breathe quite evenly as you go through this. Bring the shoulders past your fingertips, tuck those elbows in and straighten the arms. Take your feet away from the camera, tuck the pelvis under. Keep moving all the way through if you can. And then come forwards, get that back shoulder over your hand. Look down at that hand, that beautiful straight line. Lift the knee, take the hand past your chin, reach up to the ceiling. So at the moment I'm at 180, you could try and open up a little bit more if you wanted to. Now reach and stretch that arm, like you're trying to push your hands through the screen towards me, like we're trying to touch hands. Hand down to the floor, unravel the rest of your spine, take your hips back on that diagonal and come to the centre. We're going again. Push the shins in, tuck the pelvis under. We're going straight back, but only halfway. It should be a really nice stretch out in your lower back. Shoulders over your fingertips. Bend those elbows, tuck them in so you touch your ribs. Take the feet towards the camera. Stretch back, staying rounded, pelvis is tucked under. Bring all the weight over onto that other arm now. That shoulder is over your hand. Unravel your arm up to the ceiling. Drive your hips forwards, lift the knee. Maybe open up the chest a little bit more. Now reach, keep the knee lifted. Feel that wonderful stretch all around the side of your back. The hand just touches the floor. As the knees come together, there's still a stretch down that side seam. Stay tucked under, stay on the angle, stretch back. Come back to the middle. 2 more, here we go. Breath in maybe as you stretch back. Breath out as you come forwards or the other way round. I can't talk and breathe and give you all the cues. Really not that good. Take your feet away from the camera. Round that back, stretching back. Just keep flowing through it. Feel like you're stretching right to the very edges, into the corners of your body. Reach that arm forwards. Unravel your spine and then stay on that slight angle so you're really getting that wonderful stretch down one side more than the other. Feet in the middle, push the shins in, tuck the pelvis under. Reaching back, come forwards past your fingertips, tuck the elbows in. Ideally those elbows make contact with your ribs. Take the feet towards the camera, tuck the pelvis under. Stretching back. Bring your weight all into that one hand, shoulder, arm, and then unravel. If you don't go over that shoulder, there isn't enough space to lift the leg. It feels a bit squashed up. And now reach away, almost resist this with your ribs. Push your ribs back. Resist, squeezing your knees together. The hand goes to the floor. You're on a diagonal, you're going back. And you come into the centre. And well done. Just take your hips back on your heels. Elbows down and just take a little roll from side to side. Great job. Okay, we're coming on to our backs. Again, another Garuda exercise, or yeah, a Garuda exercise. I'm going to go this angle actually now. So I want you to think of 3 lines along your back. So the central line is your spine, and then you've got the line on the right hand side from your right shoulder blade down to your hip, and then the line on the left hand side from your left shoulder blade down to your hip. The 3 lines are parallel with each other and the same distance apart, with your spine being in the middle. So think about that as we're doing our bridge. So let's lie on our backs. I'm just going to take my heels out of my socks so I've got a little bit of grip there. So coming into your base position, get yourself nice and even there. Brilliant. Just have a little shuffle around, check that everything's in the correct shape. So you've got the curve at the nape of the neck, the curve in the lower back, pelvis nice and neutral, collarbone open, tuck the chin in, head is relaxed. Great, let's go all the way up to the top a couple of times for a peeling bridge. So the first thing you're going to do is push those feet down into the floor, tuck the pelvis under, push your spine almost into the floor before you lift up. Send the knees away at the top, check that the ribs are nice and relaxed. Really switch on those buttocks, open up the front of the hips. Reverse peel down. So we're going up and down in the middle, which is our spine for the moment. All the way up to the top. Breath in at the top. Breath out to come back down. Let's take one more. Think about those 4 stages. So you've got the lower back, you've got the lower ribs, you've got the middle ribs, and then you're at the top. Stage number 4, just at the top of those shoulder blades, and then coming back down to the middle ribs, to the lower ribs. Lower back pushes in, last stage is just to release into that neutral pelvis. Let's go all the way up to the top again. So lifting the hips up. Now we're going to come down the left side. In fact, I'm going to come down the right side first. So think about from the top. So think about pushing your right shoulder blade, the right line of down your ribs, through the lower ribs to the hips. And when you land, you probably can't see it quite here, but my left hip is actually off the floor. I'm quite tilted. And then I'm going to put my left hip down and then come all the way back up again. I'm going to come down the other side. You might be able to see it a bit better this side. So I'm not thinking about tilting my pelvis, but I am thinking about starting the coming down from the left shoulder blade, the tip of the left shoulder blade. Think of that parallel line. When the hips and the buttocks get down to the floor, they've got a bit of a gap here, and then I'm going to level up. But maybe if I go sideways, that might be able to see it a bit better. Let's go up again. So up through the centre, up as high as you can, down the right side. So there, yeah, now you can see it. Left hip is lifted and then I come back to neutral, and then I'm coming back up in the centre and down the left side. But I don't want you to exaggerate the hips too much. It's more thinking about the shoulder blades starting the exercise. All the way up to the top. Let's go round in a circle now. So down the left side, ribs, middle ribs, waistband, hip touches, level up the hips, and then go over, and we're going to come up the right side. So now I have lifted my left hip up. I'm tucking my pelvis under, I'm coming up that line on the right side, finishing at the shoulder blade on the right side, come into the centre, hips and shoulders level, come back down the right side, so right shoulder blade, middle ribs, lower ribs, hip lands, the right hip lands, the left hip lowers as well, so they're level. Now we're going up the other side. Push, lift the right hip up. Push through that left hand line all the way up to the top and into the centre. Fantastic. And then reverse peel all the way down. Wonderful. Great. We're going into some abdominals from here. So interlacing the hands at the back of the head. So using the breath with the movement. So really interlace your fingers. Pull your elbows apart a little bit. Elbows are flat on the floor if you can, but connect your rib cage to your hips. Make sure you're not flaring. Switch on your abdominal wall. Pelvis in a good neutral. So we're going to take a breath in. You're bringing your elbows forwards into your periphery vision. And a breath out to lift the upper body into an abdominal curl. The shoulder blades are cleared. Breath in, slide one leg away along the floor. Breath out, slide the same leg back in. When it reaches your other knee, try and take a little bit extra. Lower head and shoulders, breath in. Breath out, open up the chest. Going again on the other side. Breath in. Feel the shoulder blades slide apart. Feel the armpits shift down. Breath out to come up. Clear the shoulder blades. Slide the other leg away along the floor. Breath in. Breath out. Slide it back. Lift a little bit higher just as it gets back. Breath in. Head and shoulders down. Breath out. Elbows out. One more each side. Breath in. Elbows only. Breath out. Clear the shoulder blades. Breath in. Slide the leg away. Breath out. Draw it back in. Lift a tiny bit more. Breath in, lower head and shoulders. Breath out, open up the elbows. One more. Breath in, elbows. Breath out, clear the shoulder blades. Breath in, slide the leg along the floor. Don't lift it off. Keep that leg hovering. Slide it back in, breath out. Try and lift a little bit more. No change in that abdominal wall, that lower abdominal wall. Lower back down. Head and shoulders. Breath out to lower the elbows. We're going to change the breathing pattern slightly, but now we're going to do double legs. So breath out to come up and come straight up into your abdominal curl. Breath in, sliding both legs away, staying in that abdominal curl. Breath out, slide the legs back in, lift a little bit more. Breath in to lower. Breath out. In fact, keep the elbows forwards all the time now. So just in your periphery vision. Breath out, clear the shoulder blades. Breath in, slide those legs away. Breath out, slide back in, try and get up a little bit higher. Breath, I'm not sure which one. Out, in, I think, as you last one. So we've got breath out to come up. Breath in to lower, stretch the legs away. Breath out, try and clear a little bit more. Breath in to lower. Good job. Staying here. Just come up to comfy position. So wiggle your shoulder blades around. Your head is totally supported in your hands. I want you to just lift off of comfy position and back down. So think of this as a lovely shift. a hinge at the front of your ribs, which is hopefully where you're feeling this. This is tough work. So we're not relaxing all the way down, we're staying forwards, head is supported, totally supported. For the next exercise, you're not going to be supported, so enjoy this right now. Focus on these muscles, they should be nicely woken up now and switched on. Okay, we're all the way down. So, we're going to take a peeling bridge up to the ceiling. So push that lower back in, all the way up through the central line of your spine. Turn your palms up and imagine you're leading with your middle finger as you go all the way up and over with your arms to the floor behind you. If you can, have that middle finger touching the floor, holding that there. And then we're reverse peeling down with the spine, but leaving the arms there, having this wonderful stretch out through the spine. Turn your palms the other way, draw your armpits down, lead with your elbows and the heels of your palms, lift into like 100 position. Lift one leg into a knee fold. We're taking 5 of those little pulses. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slide the other leg away. And again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is tough. Straighten that leg up to the ceiling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Flex the feet. Take the hands up to the ceiling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend and relax. And here we go again. Unravel the spine. Lift up to the ceiling. Get those hips really open. Send the knees away. Turn your palms up. Dab your middle fingertip onto the floor. Leave your arms there. Reverse peel down. Unravel the spine to a neutral. Shoulder blades down, armpits down, elbows, wrists, hands. Reach and lift. Clear your shoulder blades. Lift the other leg into a knee fold. And we've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slide the leg away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Straighten that leg up to the ceiling. If it's too uncomfortable to get 90 degrees, take the leg away a little bit. Keep it there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Flex that top foot. Flex the hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend everything in and relax down. We've got one more set, which is both legs. Here we go. Reverse peel all the way up to the top. Get those hips nice and high. Fingertips up and over. Dab the floor with that middle finger. Touch it there. Leave the arms there. Reverse peel down. Unravel your spine to a good neutral. Shoulders, armpits, elbows, wrists. Coming all the way up. Take 5 pulses here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Both legs are in a knee fold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Both legs are up. Both feet are flexed. Last one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend the knees. Relax. Good job. One more abdominal exercise. Put me into diet on the abdominal exercises. Hands at the back of the head again. We're going to slide one leg away along the floor. We're going to draw the other knee in. We're going to roll across, taking the opposite elbow to knee. Feet to the floor and switch. Feet to the floor and switch. I'm staying up, but I'm not rolling. I'm not lifting and lowering, rolling across my back. I'm twisting. My head is staying supported. Draw that knee in all the way towards your elbow if you can. Good if you can. 8 more with me. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And collapse. Good job. Let that head just roll from side to side. Let the legs roll from side to side if that feels good for you. Brilliant. And then we are lying on our sides. Back to focusing on the hips. Just a fairly simple exercise to start with, or not to start with, just a fairly simple exercise followed by a nice stretch on the hips. So, lying on your side with your legs bent but your heels in line with your bottom. So if you can, and you've got your yoga mat handy, line yourself up, with the back of the mat. And then we're here. We're lifting the leg up and we're taking a figure of 8. It's a very shallow figure of 8 with this top leg. You're keeping your hips still. You're letting the knee drop down, the foot lifts up, and then you're swapping it over. Foot goes down, knee comes up. Hips absolutely still. Got a feeling I'm losing internet connection. Sorry about that if you're watching live. Good. So I call it a figure of 8. It's a very shallow, subtle figure of 8 with the kneecap. This rotation in is the most important one. Really try and drop that knee down to touch and make contact with your other knee. Get the foot lifted up. And lift the knee, drop the foot down without your hip rolling back to let that happen. Knee down, foot up, knee up, foot down. I think that's the right way around. Great job. Couple more if you can. You might be feeling some work going on in those buttocks. Hopefully you will. Fantastic. And then let's roll onto our backs. So we're taking the figure of 4 stretch. So the leg that you were just using, the ankle goes across the other knee. That might be enough for you to have a stretch. And if you just want to let your legs roll from side to side, perfect. But if you can, lift the other leg up off the floor, the same side as the knee, the side that we're stretching, same side hand goes through the gap, you interlace your hands behind the knee, you drop your head down if you can. If your neck's hanging like this and it's really uncomfortable, which is horrible, either stay up and stay forwards, keep that head as forward as you can, or put your foot down flat, or put this foot on a wall or a chair or something so that you're lifted but without having to hold yourself there. If you can, circle that ankle, circle the foot that's in the air at the ankle, both directions, really twiddle those toes. Great, last stretch. Take hold of the shin, the foot, of the side that you're stretching, circle the legs, stir the pot at those hips, both directions. So this is quite a nice massage on the lower back and also a stretch and mobilise again in that hip joint. And lots of circling, wiggling about in the pelvis and the hips. Great, we are all on the other side. So, lying in a beautiful straight line, the legs are bent. Hips are stacked, really importantly, shoulders are stacked. Make sure the hip does not move at all. Or I put my hand here, or I quite often put my hand in my lower back to make sure. This bit is fine, it doesn't tend to move on this one, but it's when you lift this hip up, you'll want to roll back. Try not to let that happen. Drop that knee in and the foot up and just make it nice and smooth by imagining a figure of 8 with that kneecap. Noticing for yourself. So this is my less tight side, but actually lifting up the knee doesn't feel so good as the other side did for some reason today. Just noticing the difference. Remember to get that rotation in and out. Keeping the waist lifted from the floor, so not just collapsing, so both hips are level, as opposed to if you let your waist on the underneath side collapse, your hips will be slightly tilted. Trying to work it roughly to the same amount of muscle awareness, soreness, hopefully no pain. If it's pain, then please stop. But muscle fatigue, I think, is the best way to describe it. So when that's starting to feel a little bit tired, do a couple more. Never just stop immediately. Go past that comfort zone, if you like. That's where the magic happens, when you do those few extra with good technique. If your technique's gone out the window and it's not so great. And then rolling onto your back. Cross the ankle over. So this side feels a bit tighter for me today. Normally this is my okay side. So I'm just going to pause a moment here. Ankle across the knee. Let my legs roll from side to side. You could have the legs completely over. Equally valid stretch. Then if you can, lifting that foot up. So creating a figure of 4 with this knee and thigh. One hand goes through the gap, other hand interlaces. If you can, lay your head down and breathe. Circle the foot that's in the air. So your goal here is to push this thigh, the knee that you're stretching, the side that you're stretching in the hip, push that knee away, but using your muscles. Don't actually put your hand on it and push it away. You can do. Circling the foot, twiddling the toes, and then hanging on to that shin and ankle and circling around. Mobilising. Lower back, pelvis, hips, all sorts of things going on there. Okay, well done, lovely. We're coming on to our tummies, just to finish off. A little bit of strength work, but mobilising as well. And we're going to start this movement lying on your tummy. Open up the legs to slightly wider than hip width apart, shoulder width apart I would say, and have the hands underneath your shoulders. Tuck your elbows in with your elbows lifted like you're in like a grasshopper, basically. And we're going to try and hover the whole body off of the floor. But the first thing I want you to do, in fact you can relax your feet a little bit, is just pull your belly button away from the mat and lift the skin, lift your belly button towards your spine. And you might notice, I'm exaggerating it slightly, but you might notice that my hips are lifting up. Imagine there's a naked flame underneath your tummy and you're trying not to let your tummy get burnt. So lifting up and then relaxing, allowing that to relax. And it might be that you don't lift up much, or you don't actually pull your tummy away from the floor, but internally take that action. And then at the same time, what I'd like you to do, not at the same time, sorry, I want to do that first. So draw that belly button in tight and lift it up towards the spine. And then if you can from here, keep your chin tucked in so you're not stressing the back of the neck. Push down on your hands. So I'm lifting my chest off of the floor. So belly button in tight, and then pushing down on my hands, bringing the elbows in tight towards my side, lifting my chest up off of the floor. I know I haven't got much chest to lift, but it's not this. I don't need to lift your shoulders up. Don't come up that way. Just tense in the centre. So you end up on your hands and your knees. Drawing the belly button in, switching the pelvic floor on a little bit. Just keep the head nice and relaxed, and I'm just hovering. My whole body is hovering. Half an inch, it's actually still touching some parts, but I'm just brushing the floor. I'm slightly off. If that doesn't suit you, with the arms, try this. So you tuck your elbows in, you make a fist, You push down, so you draw the belly button in nice and tight towards the spine, and then you just push down from your elbow to your, make a fist. I think it just helps to keep that nice and strong. Same thing, I've lifted up. It's not, don't try and lift here first. It's pushing down. If anything, I'm thinking about my hips coming up higher than my shoulders. Moving on from there. Curling the toes under, so this is slightly harder. So we were just on our knees and our hands or our forearms. Now we're going to curl the toes under, lifting the hips up, push down through your hands, straighten out your legs. So I'm on my toes and my hands. Keep the chin tucked in. That is strong, I will agree. It's down. Does it work this way? It should do. So elbows down, so belly button in nice and tight. Maybe come up onto your knees first, then straighten out the legs. Yeah, same thing. That might be a bit uncomfortable in your elbows, a lot of strain where you wouldn't normally put that sort of strain on your elbows, but see how you go. Great, building up to the big snake through movement, which comes from our sit bone circles. So sit bone circles are this, and you could just finish here if you wanted to. So tucking the pelvis under, taking the hips back a little bit, and then having a little swoop through. Tuck the pelvis under, take the hips back, swoop through. So as I'm swooping through, I'm bending my arms slightly, and this is, the focus is on your pelvis, your sit bones, taking a circle, but I always think of it as more of a wave, really. Now go the other way. Go, tuck under, go forwards, up and over, bend the arms, tilt the pelvis to come back. Tuck under, go forwards, bend and come back. So it can be as big or as small as you like. And then here's the full version of the snake through. I'll show you the full version, then I'll show you a couple more variations. So all the way back, so I've opened up my knees a little bit wider now, feet, toes are touching, hands are wider, the elbows are going to go out to the side. As I swoop through, brushing my nose along the floor, I come up into a full cobra if you want to and if you can. Remember, this is the full version. I lower my chest, I lift the hips, I push back and I'm here. That's the full version. Here's a variation on that. So just a bigger version of what we just did. So taking the hips back onto the heels. Coming all the way forwards. Lie your body flat. Then lift your chest up into the cobra or any variation, or maybe on your elbows. Then lower back down. Easier than this, because this is tough. Depends if you could do that first one that we did. Is a reverse push up. And then go back, or then come up onto all fours actually. So here's the easier version. Tuck back, swoop through, relax, lift your back, lower the back, lift hips into that reverse push-up. I'm going to do a couple more of the biggest ones. So all the way back, swooping all the way through, lift, and then lower, peel back, with the hips, and one more. You could even take a little stretch back there, whatever you feel like doing, lifting, lowering, peeling back, and relaxing, coming back here. Just take a slightly mad sway from side to side. Should fit a nice stretch down that side seam of your torso, and then let's unravel. Spine, coming back to this position if you can. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. Please give me some feedback and let me know how your hips are over the next couple of days. Thank you.